And we'll start. Hello, and thank you for joining the session today here at SCOMathon, where we're going to talk about how we might use webhooks to raise alerts in SCOM, and then show you some other cool stuff as well relating to webhooks. Before we get into it, firstly, just to introduce myself. Surely you've seen me around SCOMathon already, but if not, I'm Bruce Cullen. I am the Director of Products here at Cookdown, and with me I have Nathan Foreman. Hello, Nathan.
Hello, hopefully also a familiar face. I am the architect for products at Cookdown.
And between us, we're very proud to present what we've been building in the background here at SCOMathon. So let's start with the basics of what we're going to show. At the nub of it, essentially, we have SCOM in the middle. We have webhooks that we're going to be sending into SCOM to our management pack, our connection center management pack. And we're going to be getting alerts out the other end every time a webhook is received. We're really simple in principle, and at a high level, that's what it does. But the reality is that isn't super useful in and of itself, because you might want to close some of those alerts sometimes as well as just literally open them. Yes, that is also possible with the ability to sync alert state. It's only possible where a webhook can contain information that lets you identify multiple webhooks as coming from the same source, which we can do by use of an ID. And in this case, we are receiving a webhook with an ID, which will obviously open an alert. We're receiving another webhook, which contains a closed type notification, along with an ID. This will close off the alert. All possible. When you're setting this up, which is what we're going to show you in a minute, how this all kind of works, you define what open looks like, what closed looks like, because different systems will have different terminology for those things, and also where to look for the ID. The other thing that's really useful, because it's part of SCOM's kind of core feature set and capabilities, is the ability to increment the repeat counts on an alert rather than pile up multiple alerts that are the same thing. So in this case, we have a webhook coming in with an ID on it, which triggers an alert being raised. If we receive the same open type alert from the same, with the same ID, we'll literally just increment the alert's repeat count as opposed to adding an additional alert, just as SCOM does natively. Now, all of these features can be used in conjunction with each other, which means you can also then close it off as long as there is an identifier on the webhook that closes it off, and not have to touch that alert at all, which is really, really awesome. And that is where we're going to go to our first demo. So for this, I'm going to hand over to Nathan, who's going to take us through how this looks in the product.
Perfect. Let me just share my screen here quick. Could you unshare your screen?
Oh, sorry. Didn't mind that.
Cue trimming. Do you care if the bar of computers is on the side, or do you want me to open it in its own window? Make it look, I might as well open its own window, look a little prettier. We can. Bad SCOM. Success. Do you see SCOM?
I see SCOM.
Perfect. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I've got us here on SCOM 2022, as I figured we might as well use the newest version. And we're looking here in the admin pane under the Connection Center Cookdown items, which show up when you import the Connection Center management pack. So for the demo Bruce had just talked about, we're going to look at this alerts only connection that I had created here. And if we go in, these are settings you'd set up normally when you go through, but we don't want to wait for SCOM's config churn. So I've already set it up. But you'll see here, you've provided a payload, or it will find one for you based on an option where you can just set it up empty, send through your payload, and come back into this UI, and it'll say, use the last one I've seen. And then from there, we can go in and say, what would you like your alert name to be? And then it gives you a template here where you can use values from that payload. And you'll see down below, if I change this, it actually re-renders it on the fly. So you can see what it'll look like.
So presumably then you can use the parameters from the sample payloads as you see fit.
Exactly. Let's pick one here, say alert ID. And we have documentation on this liquid format. I won't bore you with that. It's pretty powerful, but mainly it allows you to pull out from the JSON you're posting via REST any properties you want. And we could even put down here and say the alert ID was, and you'll see it actually then goes back and looks in the payload. So it gives us some power there. And as we go through, one of the questions we'll ask, well, what property, what template is your alert ID? And I've given it here, is this the alert ID? And then it says, well, for the state, how do I determine that? And it's just a field called state in our example. But it is modifiable so that if you're using Prometheus or another system where you can't change the payload, you can change our configuration where it looks.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and then the same goes for when do you want it closed. So since we're doing a demo, I said I'll just use the string closed, but there is some tools that may say resolving or resolved, and that again is configurable. This we'll talk about next. And then after that, you just go through and save the wizard and you'll get a new connection here. And so let's give that a test because that's the more exciting part. So I've got Postman open here. And this URL was given to you at the end of the wizard, and it is also available anytime you go in and view it. And you'll see the properties here. So we'll just do not closed as a state. This is a demo from Postman and our alert ID of 125. It's just a string. When you send it, it'll just give you a 200 for OK. And if we go back here, we should shortly see an alert pop in that matches that. It's usually fairly quick. And there we are. And you'll see in the alert, it matches the name I did. And if we open it up, I didn't save the change to alert ID. I just want to point that out here before it looks like something when we were just looking at the UI. So that's why it has the message only. But it has dynamically built that out. And you'll also see some of the data that I pulled into the custom fields is there. And for your troubleshooting teams, it can be helpful that the actual raw JSON that triggered this alert is included if it is less than 1 megabyte in size. So it'll truncate massive ones, but the smaller ones it will include in here so you can actually see what the source system said without manipulation.
I can't imagine many systems will send as much as a meg in a webhook typically.
Nope. Yeah, so we just put in a safety limit because we have a great tester that finds some of those things. So we have to put that in, but everything we've tested actually is much, much smaller in capacity. And so if I send that again, we'll see the repeat count go up. We do that here quick, which is good to know that some of the safeties that SCOM has already put in to prevent spamming you with the same thing over and over do apply. And we'll refresh this. And there you see the repeat count's gone up. So it works pretty helpful there. The cooler part, however, is we'll say this system is now updated, something has changed and it's gone to closed. The payload here gets posted. And as long as that closed and your alert key matches, it will close that alert. So the alert key is what it deduplicated on for our repeat count. And that's also how it ties through and says, just as you saw there, like, oh, it's closed. I have an open alert with that ID. Let me just close that off. And that's how that works.
Very nice indeed. Thank you. But that's not all we have to show. I'm going to take screen back, Nathan, off you, and I am going to go through some more slides. All right. So that's great, and that's all good. We're talking about alerts, but really to make this super useful, wouldn't it be good to have objects in there as well? Well, the good news is you can do that. We allow you to manually create a load of objects from CSV in SCOM. That's the screen that Nathan skipped over that we're going to go back to and show you. So you can go in essentially and create a whole bunch of objects from CSV manually. And then what good is an object without something associated with it, like an alert or a monitor? So for each of these alerts, we'll go and create a monitor by default, where we'll monitor for less than 0 alerts. So that they light up with their status, essentially. So now when we layer in our alerts, and based on webhooks, as long as we have information relating to the object and relating to their state, then we can use that information to flip the state of these monitors based on alerts being raised. So here we have a webhook coming in that raises an alert that turns the monitor red on the object we created from our CSV file. Same thing for a second alert, but again, these features kind of layer on top of each other, which means that we can also close off those alerts. And by the power of SCOM's magic, we can use the power of the monitor to make it green again when the alert is closed, which is really, really cool. There are many other kind of possibilities when you use Connection Center in this way, and that is our next demo. So I will hand back over to you for that demo.
Perfect. Let me share my screen here. Just a second. And adding a pause there because we'll need to trim this. Your slides mention opening and closing in the monitor state, but we had just decided minutes before this demo to remove that. Would you like me to throw it back in so we can see the monitor state and roll up? It is kind of cool to be able to say server 1 is red in Prometheus.
Yeah,
it'll go red now, I guess I should say. It will never go green again.
Oh, right, okay. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. I say we didn't. Did we decide to remove the whole thing? No, we didn't. That's fine.
No,
I'm cool.
Just
I'm
removed
cool with
the closing functionality, so I can't.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Yeah,
Okay.
we can as long as we just say, mention it verbally. That's fine. Yeah.
Sounds good. Let me pull that up here quick. All the screens are blank. Good job. Zoom. Okay, you should see things.
Yeah.
Perfect. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here we're back in our SCOM 2022 instance, and I'll look right below the previous alerts only to this alerts with objects. Very, very creatively named. You'll see the UI much similar when we go through. The sample payload, I haven't actually sent one in here yet, so you can provide one. But the one item that changes that we're looking at here is this field called manual object creation. So what I've done here is we've given it an object key template, which is where I tell it, this is how you extract from the JSON your key. And then there's a table of the objects we'd like it to create. You can manually edit them, or more likely, depending on the size, you can upload a CSV and it'll put them in there. And then you can go back and change it from that CSV as well.
That's really cool. So if you've got a source system that will let you export its object model to CSV, you can upload it.
Exactly. And we've tested it upwards of 1,500, 2,000 objects. So it's not a problem to do if you have servers in, say, Prometheus, again, to pick on that, to just bring them all over and give it the name of all of those servers. And here's where that comes in handy. So if we go to my objects alert demo here, I'm going to use the server 1, and I'll go through and I'll send that through. And you'll get the same 200. It also gives, if you're using it in PowerShell, it gives you a little more information that it found the object, or it doesn't, but for most cases, you can ignore that. And if we go back here, we should shortly see an alert for an object called server 1. And there it is, server 1. It
Nice.
matches the alert severity of what we put in through the UI. If I open the Health Explorer to mirror Bruce's demo of the green circles, you'll see this object has open alert state here is currently green. It should update in probably about a minute and change and represent the server 1 to be unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And there we are. So it goes fairly quick. It's fairly efficient. It was one of the targets, of course, when we write the Cookdown stuff, just being our namesake is to keep SCOM as efficient as possible. So, and it goes quickly, and you'll see in here that there's one open alert, and now you have a server 1 object matching the server 1 from Prometheus or wherever, excuse me, that you can now dashboard and display in SCOM or Squared Up or any other product to show that state.
Which is awesome. And one thing to note here is, did you write any code? I didn't see you write any code, apart from obviously to code the management pack. You know?
Yep.
Right.
All the code I've written is the stuff that we send, so you don't have to write any code the day of.
Exactly. So all without writing a line of code. So entirely UI driven. So you don't need to be a developer, know how to author MPs to get custom objects into SCOM and to get alerts in and to have them synced with states. All possible entirely from the UI with what we've built as part of Connection Center for Webhooks Inbound. But that's not it. I'm going to go back to my screen. I've got some more cool stuff to show you. And this is something even on top of raising alerts. And that is the power of putting machines into maintenance mode using Webhook as well. So this is a very common request that we've heard from a number of people over time. We just want to put servers into maintenance modes for a duration. Now we want it to start immediately. It's another thing that should be possible to send via Webhook. It's relatively easy. All that's actually required from our perspective is a webhook containing a list of IDs representing the server or servers. You can put multiple servers in one webhook, and then how long they're to go into maintenance mode from. When received, the servers by SCOM are put into maintenance mode. And again, all done without writing any code. So back to you, Nathan, for our final demo.
Perfect. Let me pull that up here quick. Yes.
This bit.
This bit, I did not get it fully set up in that time. Let me see. I'm looking at 16 here quick.
I'm going to pause the recording for a second then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nathan. That was really cool to see. Now, the final thing to talk about is clearly in SCOM, alerts are raised from events. So when we're sending webhooks into SCOM, they're stored as events, and from those events, we're raising alerts. I can expect feedback and questions along the lines of, well, I don't want a monitor that goes red when I have alerts. I want monitors to do something more cool and more deep. Well, the good news is, because of the way this thing works with a different connection, you can do anything you like with those events. So we create under the covers in SCOM an event every time a webhook is received. We have a type of connection you can set up that will not do any of the alert stuff and only raise the events, which means you can do whatever cool, crazy, wonderful things you want with those events. So really, SCOM is the limit there. Everything you can do in SCOM natively in terms of custom monitoring is possible with the events we bring in via Webhook. So that's all we had to show and to talk about today. I hope you're as excited for Connection Center for Webhooks as we are to show it to you today. One thing to say is it's not yet available. There is a version of Connection Center for Webhooks available, but it doesn't have all of the functionality that we've shown you today. But this is our sneak preview of it, so we're really keen to hear your feedback in the Q&A in a second. But we'd like to invite you guys to be the first to get your hands on it and to try it out for real. So if you're interested, go to go.cookdown.com/SCOMathon 2022, fill in the form, and when it's ready, which will be in a few months' time, there or thereabouts, you'll be able to get your hands on it and give it a try for yourself. We're very keen on your feedback and yeah, iterating on what we hear. Final thing to say before we end this session is just to mention Connection Center a bit more. So we mentioned what's possible with Connection Center as far as raising alerts is concerned. But Connection Center is a whole suite of capabilities that lets you use the existing SCOM alerts to raise incidents in your ITSM tool like ServiceNow and Sharewell, to use those same alerts as messages in notifications platforms like Slack and Teams. But ultimately, not only do we support receiving webhooks, we can also push things by webhook as well. So we can push those SCOM alerts out to any platform that can receive them to do other cool stuff with SCOM alerts. If you go to cookdown.com, we have a demo of us using it with Azure Logic Apps, which is quite cool to show you the kind of possibilities of using your existing SCOM alerts to do more. And of course, the piece we covered in this call today, the ability to raise things from systems via webhooks. Everything you need is at cookdown.com. If you have a question that occurs to you after today, you can go there and ask it. We have demos of all of our products, and of course, we do free trials of everything that we make. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Q&A. So we will allow you to speak. If you'd like to speak, simply raise your hand in Zoom. There's a button for that somewhere around, and we'll bring you in so you can ask questions. Or of course, there's Slack. If anything occurs to you afterwards, there's an ask-cookdown channel. And there's of course the chat function of Zoom. So we'll take Q&A now. Ta-da! Oh, it's recording for ta-da.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was actually going to try and raise my hand to show.
I don't know if that's captured in the recording, but we'll